Welcome to All Ask the Questions Around Here, the podcast where we explore life's unexpected intersections. I'm your host, Dr. Joseph Elisha. Today, like always, we'll journey from the challenging conversations to the inspiring and lighthearted discussions that connect us all. Let's begin. Welcome to another episode of All Ask the Questions Around Here. It is good to be back. I had a couple of episodes where I was just sharing some private thoughts on life in general. And today I have the immense pleasure of having Lauren Del Sarto with us. She is a local Coachella Valley resident, and she has such an illustrious career. She's done so many things that I don't think there's any way that I could cover all that she's accomplished, all of which are phenomenal and have benefited so many people. But I do want to say that she is a founder and publisher of Desert Health, and she's a co-founder of Good Vibes Sound Bath, which has had an immense following on social media. She comes from a background with Morgan Stanley, and I could go on and on and on, but welcome, Lauren. It's good to have you on my podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Elisha. So excited to be here.
It's wonderful. I wanted to kind of just say a couple of things. We live in an environment, and I'm going to talk about one of our commonalities. We kind of live in an environment and in times where we encounter so much negativity in the news and social media. We're almost bombarded by it from the minute that we wake up in the morning until we go to bed. And I believe in some ways it has contributed to all of us having some form of attention deficit because we're constantly trying to find out what's happening in the world. And unfortunately, most of the focus tends to be on the negative, on what's wrong with our world. And to remind you and our audience, I started this podcast just to point out what is good about our world. And I know that's one of the angles of your publication, which is to point out the positive, the positive side of humanity, and that, there are still good people around with really good intentions who have a serious community spirit, who are there to make life better for humanity in general. And I'm reminded of this beautiful quote from one of the survivors of the attack in Boulder, Colorado. She is a Holocaust survivor. And what's amazing is after she was literally set on fire, she survives it. And what she came up with just really absolutely shocked me. She said, "We can all be better than this." And I cannot think of a better expression of hope in our world, our humanity. And this is one of the people that one would expect to be, in other circumstances, bitter, hating humanity with all that's happened to her in her life. And yet again, she's been attacked specifically because she's Jewish. And this is what she came up with. And I absolutely love that, because this is what we're all about. We want to point out what is good. And I'm not talking about toxic positivity. I am talking about optimism. I am talking about looking under the layer of the grime and the dirt that all the social media are delivering to us, and to point out the positive and what is good about life and what we can be hopeful about. As long as we have hope, we have a direction to go.
No question. And, publishing a health publication can certainly have two directions. You can talk about all the things that are bad for you and what you need to not do anymore, and, the fear factor. And when I started Desert Health 15 years ago, I said, if I'm going to start any publication, especially one about health, it's going to really focus on the positive aspect of any subject and the resourceful aspect, where you can find the people, the things, the resources that can help you to change your ways, to live a healthier life, etc. So that's really what we've done with Desert Health, and I think one of the reasons for its success.
Absolutely. And I've had an opportunity to read a number of the articles, and I really connected with your last reflection on, people just kind of being in a position of just being anxious, edgy, and very likely as a reflection to what is being served to us in the news, I'm sure. But tell me a little bit about what you did prior to starting up Desert Health, which was in 2010. Yeah?
Yes, it was. Boy, I was a, consummate workaholic. I went to school on the East Coast in Virginia and went straight from James Madison University to New York City and worked on Wall Street for a couple of years at Morgan Stanley. And I wasn't an analyst or doing the financial element. I was actually planning social functions in the mid 80s for the mergers and acquisitions department. So these were, ski trips to Snowbird and outings in the Hamptons and really extravagant events. And it was the best job straight out of college that I could have ever asked for. But it was 24/7. And from there, I came out after 2 years, I just said, I miss trees and horses and anything with four legs. And said, I got to get out of New York City. So I had the opportunity to come to San Francisco. And then I worked for an event production company and did large festivals and concerts and what have you. And really focused on sponsorship. And my major was journalism. So I was missing the writing part of it. I went from there to start my own agency where we did marketing, advertising, and sponsorship development for events. So we represented a number of different events, and then I got into the creative writing aspect of it and had the agency for about 10 years. And then, as we've discussed, the serendipitous path that we've both experienced in life, I decided that I was going to be leaving that job and not sure what I was going to do. And a client called me and said, well, where are you going? I said, I don't know. He goes, well, how would you like to work with Dorothy Hamill? She's just purchased the Ice Capades and is looking for marketing managers. So the next thing I knew, I was on a plane flying down to this interesting place called Indian Wells. And when I arrived and I'm taken in a limo from the airport to El Dorado Country Club, I said, this place can't be real. This place is fake. And this, again, was the early 90s. I just couldn't get over that. It was my first experience in the Coachella Valley.
It's one of my favorite areas.
Couldn't believe it. And had the honor of working with Dorothy for 2 years and had 18 markets across the country. And I just spent 2 years on a plane. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. And fast forward, Dorothy still lives here part-time. And when I moved down here 25 years later, I bumped into her in Bones and Scones, the dog store.
Yes.
And, reconnected with her, and I've had the honor of working with her a little on the side as well now with some other ventures that she's done. So that was fun. But it wasn't until I've done 3 or 4 more things between that time and now my husband and I decided on early retirement about 20 years ago, and his mother was down here, so he wanted to move down here. And I said, okay, I kind of remember it. I think I could adjust, and best move ever. I absolutely love living in the Coachella Valley.
I absolutely share that with you. And there's not a place in the United States that I'd like to be other than here. And I think there are days in the summertime where I wish I was a little, someplace a little bit cooler. But the question that I had was, you have everything that you've described so far speaks of this innate desire to connect with people. And I'm talking about large numbers of people. Where did that come from? Is that just something that's just inherent in you? Or is that something that was developed over the course of time?
I'm pretty animate. First to my mind is from moving numerous times as a child and having to fit in and having to fit in quickly. I moved 17 times before graduating from high school. My father was originally in the Army, and then he was a developer.
I was going to ask if he was in the services.
Yeah, so I remember, and I start speaking to somebody from the South, and I go into my Southern accent. I mean, I remember I was so good at fitting in because I knew it was so important for my survival as a young person. So I think that I just grew to, hey, let's all gather and have a good time and bring people together. And the ability to do that, I think, started at a young age.
You're obviously very successful at it. Now, how, when growing up and moving, so many times, what would you point out as a negative aspect of that? And obviously, I think in many respects, it makes you a person who is quite pragmatic. You adapt to different environments, different schools. You got to make friends quickly. What is a negative side of that?
Another great question, because I think another habit that I brought with me through my life is not remembering the negative. Because to me, it was a wonderful experience. Of course, leaving my friends was the worst, the worst thing. Every time we were having a family meeting, I do remember there were a lot of tears. But I really think that it taught me to always focus on the positive. And that certainly came from my mom, because every new move was a journey and a new adventure. And so people ask, when I've spoken at different events, people ask me about, when in business that I failed. And I'm stumped. I'm like, I don't remember ever failing. And I'm sure there are things but I don't remember them. I really don't. I mean, there's nothing that crushed me in business, because I see every change that occurs as an opportunity for a new door, and I walk right through it.
Of course, and I don't find that unusual, especially in talking to people who are successful in life and who are in a position where they're content in spite of what's happening around them, right? And it goes back to this concept of, life is all about falling down 6 times and getting up 7, and just moving on and learning from our failures, and being able to take this cumulative knowledge that we gather from our experiences, and just this constant process of refining our direction and adjusting our sails, right? Which is what I'm hearing from you.
Yes. And with Desert Health, it is so much when you talk about, creating an event and bringing people together, because I'm not a doctor. I have no health background, but I'm really good at bringing together the people to a positive platform. Desert Health is the first thing I've ever published, but I saw when I moved here, because I was, as a workaholic, I'm like, I'm going to focus on my own health here in the desert as an early retired person, which lasted about 8 months. And
I want to know your husband's perspective on that too, by the way.
Yeah, he went back to work right away as well. But I saw the vast natural health community here, and I saw the vast medical community, and I said, I see where they're starting to work together, and I want to really promote that, give that a platform where integrative medicine was growing. Did I even know that was a thing? No, but I saw the naturopathic doctors, I saw the medical doctors, I saw them starting to come together for patient care, and I thought, that's the future of medicine. And it really was the right thing at the right time, because I got in to get in to speak with our dear friend Joe Scherger, who was the vice president of primary care at Eisenhower at the time. And I remember vividly, he said, timely convergence. You are absolutely right that this is the way healthcare is going. And your publication seems to fit right in there. So it was really the right thing at the right time. But again, the articles are written by local practitioners on the wellness and the medical side. We've got columnists, what have you. I get to write the inspirational, 1 or 2 pieces throughout, or do interviews and learn. And I absolutely love it.
I know you've had a personal experience with a health crisis, cancer. And it's something that you've talked about, actually. Do you want to delve into that a little bit, and how that has transformed you and change your paradigm of healthcare and medicine?
Sure, I did. I was in 2018. I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was a small, 2 centimeter tumor. It was invasive ductal. So concerned, but certainly knew it wasn't deadly. And because I have become such a researcher, and because I had access to so many resources, I did all the research and I looked at my options. And again, another serendipitous path there, because I was ready to go in for a double mastectomy. I was like, I don't want to deal with it. I'm okay losing them. Let's just go in that direction. And to get graphic, but you're a doctor, I said, if I'm going to do this, and I was speaking to a doctor at Eisenhower, I said, I'd like to get a nipple sparing surgery. And he said, well, there is a woman, the head of women's health at City of Hope, Dr. Laura Cooper. She specializes in that. So I set the appointment at City of Hope and was grateful that the Eisenhower doctor was sending me to City of Hope. And in between that appointment, I ran into a friend who's actually becoming a PA with Dr. Sugar now that I talk about how we're all connected. And she said, have you heard of cryoablation? And I was like, what? She said, yeah, they're doing this new technology where they can freeze the tumor. And they're doing clinical trials on breast cancer. And I thought, well, I got to learn more about that. So I dove into that. And they were doing the clinical trial. It was the Frost trial for cryoablation for breast cancer at City of Hope. They were one of the participating facilities. And so when I got there, I spoke to mentioned it to Dr. Cooper, and she said, you're a perfect candidate. And I said, I'm going to do it. And literally, it is a less invasive 45-minute procedure that you're awake for, that you go in, you've got a couple weeks recovery, and you're on your way. And for me, it was the right decision, and it worked perfectly. I got to say one thing. I was seeing a naturopathic doctor for my care anyway, both my primary care medical doctor, allopathic doctor, and a naturopathic doctor. When I got my diagnosis, she put me on a very strict diet, no alcohol, no sugar, including fruit, no animal protein, no coffee. Ooh, that was a hard one. And
that would be a tough one for me.
Primarily plant. And between December and April, I shrunk my tumor 50%. Just based on the diet. I couldn't believe it. I'm on the table and they're doing the ultrasound and they measure the tumor. I said, no, that's wrong. It's 2 centimeters. And I had 3 people measure it just to ensure that this was accurate. And it was pretty incredible.
Just strictly going on an anti-inflammatory regimen, and which I know has great utility in a lot of autoimmune conditions. MS, for example, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes. I mean, it's really amazing. And I want to share a personal experience here just to point out where we are in terms of our approach and how we prioritize a Western style of medicine and how we have traditionally put the other stuff on the back burner. Other alternative modes of treatment. It was 1988, my first day, our white coat ceremony at Harvard Med School. We're all sitting in this big giant auditorium, and enrolls in a quadriplegic woman on a wheelchair. And they're going for the impact, right, on all these young, fresh minds who are going to go into medicine. And she started discussing how she got to this stage of becoming a quadriplegic. She had some neck issues and went to a chiropractor. And of course, we know nothing about this chiropractor. And the chiropractor did an adjustment and severed her spinal cord, her C-spine. And so you can just imagine the impression that we all got and the perspective that we got on any other mode of treatment in medicine, except for what's being taught at Harvard Med School, 1988.
That's amazing.
And of course, there is a place for chiropractors in our society. There's a place for acupuncturists in our society. There's a place for massage therapy. There's a place for all these different modes of treatment that Western medicine does not necessarily have answers for. And it's really been eye-opening. And of course, the style of medicine that I practice, being specifically anesthesia, it's all evidence-based, and there isn't a whole lot that I can do except to go by what are the recommended regimens and treatments for various types of anesthesia, and I'm okay with that. But I'm also not in primary care, so I really applaud you for doing the research. And what's really important, what I'm hearing from you, is you are actually okay with going through the double mastectomy, which from, your perspective as a woman, a lot of I would imagine your identity goes into that. It's a part of your body, it's part of your identity, physical identity anyways, that you're parting with. But you're okay with that. And yet you continue to research. And that's amazing to me.
Well, two thoughts come about. Number one, it's scary the number of women who do go that way. And I think you're driven by the fear of it coming back. Well, this is one way to ensure that it doesn't come back. I think that's what drives you to, making the decision. But there's a great book, and Laura Ross Paul, she'd be a great one for you to have on. She wrote a book called They're Mine and I'm Keeping Them. She was the first woman to have cryoablation for breast cancer. She had it 4 times and is cancer free, but tumors came back and she had it again, and other tumors, and she had it again, and she's doing well. But she was a great resource for the cryoablation. But back to the point, I think that I know I've read a lot about women turning to mastectomy and not knowing about these other options. So it was good for me to find the in-between one. And we continue in Desert Health, working with Dr. Dennis Holmes out of LA. He does the Breast Chronicles, a newsletter, and he is the key investigator for many of the trials. He's such a champion, and he does updates on where all the trials are, and to try and get cryoablation as a standard of care, because it should be. It certainly should be. And the results the trials are very positive and encouraging. So hopefully it's something we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should make a disclosure here that obviously we're not, Lauren and I are not in the business of, giving medical advice, but pointing out alternative modes of therapy that are available. And obviously everyone's circumstances are very unique and different. And if you happen to be in those set of unfortunate circumstances, it's what I'm hearing is it's prudent to do the research, to look at all modes of therapy, and then in communication and in conjunction with your healthcare provider to come up with a decision that you're at peace with. And I think that's the key here, being at peace with a treatment that's being offered.
And you said it very well. You work with your team, and that team can include and should include people from different sides, from the allopathic medicine side of things and from the natural health community. And that's where, we were so fortunate with Desert Health, and the timing is the growth of functional medicine, right? Integrative medicine and functional medicine, because it is opening the minds of more and more doctors that, yes, there are other ways, and let's work together. If this is the patient's choice, let's work together as a team for the greatest outcomes.
Absolutely. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit to something that I've never done, and that is very familiar to you, riding horses. Tell me all about it. What's it like to be on the back of a horse and go horse riding?
Oh, my goodness.
And I have to mention here, you're an accomplished horse rider who has won awards.
Yes, and I just realized that I have that's from when I was 16, believe it or not. I mean, I've won awards as of like 2 years ago when I started competing again. It's not such a far jump, because probably 10 years ago, or where are we now? 10 years before I was diagnosed with breast cancer, And I'm a competitive equestrian, so hunters and jumpers and jumping fences and what have you. That award was when I was 16. I represented the United States in an international competition in Puerto Rico, and I got Best Visiting Junior Rider. So that's that award. But 10 years ago, I had stopped riding, or I was thinking I wanted to get back into riding. I had lived on a farm where we were doing trail riding, what have you, but I wanted to jump and compete again. So I go to this facility here locally, the first one, and knowing my history, she puts me on this beautiful big jumper and, heads me off and says, okay, let's do this, 2 strides, 2 jumps, 3 strides. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And I froze. I was so full of fear for the first time in my life from my lifetime sport since I was 8. And I thought, what is happening here? And I realized that I had just simply aged.
Yeah.
And I was now fearful of potentially falling off.
Sure.
And I might get hurt. And I said, okay, wait, you need to downgrade me to a pony. We got to start slow here. So she puts me on this little fat pony named Frodo. And I'm doing 2-foot fences. And I'm like, I'm still scared. This is ridiculous. And I gave it up. I was like, I guess I'm too old. I can't do this anymore.
Isn't it amazing what fear does? It just kind of freezes you in your tracks.
Yeah. And then fast forward, get through my breast cancer journey, and I'm fearless. And so I said, I'm going back. And so I started riding again and jumping again. I was teamed with the perfect partner, this chestnut Tristan. And in our first show here in the desert, we got champion in one division and reserve champion in another division in our first horse show in 30 years or something. So it was awesome. But it made me fearless.
Is it true that horses know the rider's ability?
They feel fear. They feel fear and anxiety. So if you're nervous about being on them, they're nervous about you being on them.
No kidding. Talk to me about that a little bit. I that's fascinating. How does an animal know that you are not comfortable? Is it just the way that you get on the horse or
sweat? One of the greatest, how much animals know. I swear, if they could talk, they would tell you everything you said yesterday.
Some are actually smarter than we are.
Oh, yeah. One of the greatest things I follow on Instagram is a horse in France who is used as a therapy horse in hospitals. And he can identify the people who are dying or the people who need him. And he's got little booties on. That
is unbelievable.
Huge show horse. He's this gorgeous show horse. And his owner saw the way that he gravitated towards people who needed healing. And so he's the therapy horse in the hospital. And he's doing wonders for people. It's really amazing. So they know so much.
I would love to know if there are any validated studies that show the impact of therapy animals on a patient's recovery course. Certainly patients who do have the option of recovering and whether or not it accelerates that process. I know there are some interesting studies on the power of prayer and people who have, people coming in praying with them regardless of their faith. And those ICU patients tend to have better vital signs and tend to recover faster.
Yes. And in a recent edition, we had a practitioner write about heart medicine, and it was about a therapy dog and a human. And they were able to measure their magnetic attraction to each other when together and when apart. That alone is energy medicine and therapy that is effective. And so it's a pretty neat article.
Well, if you ascribe to the theories of quantum physics, we are all basically walking balls of energy and we emit a certain level of energy. And I was just talking to someone about it that, if you're ever in the presence of someone that you get, these so-called bad vibes from, and your gut is telling you that, this is not a good person or not a good person for you anyways. And there is we all emit a certain level of energy, and we pick up on that. And that's what our gut tells us. And I was just saying that to my kids, actually. If you're in the presence of someone who doesn't make you feel comfortable, there is validity to that. And that's real. You should listen to your gut, which is akin, in some ways to how you approach your cancer diagnosis. And going back to that for a second, did you ever have fears, or do you have a fear of dying?
Great question. I don't. And it's weird? When I got COVID, which, they talked about how COVID crossed the brain barrier. And for me, it really had a psychological effect. It changed my thoughts. But I remember thinking I was pretty sick. And I remember thinking, I'm okay if I die. I mean, I really was 100% okay if I died. And that was very strange to me. And since COVID, I have not gotten, knock on wood, not gotten sick at all. And I had a little bit of a cold, as you know, a few weeks ago. And I felt that same thing. They said it was only the rhinovirus, the common cold, but I think all these viruses have become friends and are intermingling, because I had that same, what I, felt like it crossed the brain barrier and had me thinking very strange thoughts, including, I'm okay if I die. So I don't really ever think about it, but I have thought about it in these two scenarios, and I'm okay with it.
But I find that interesting because I see you, or my impression of you anyways, is of someone who has all these projects and stuff that they want to do, and there just isn't enough time. And in some ways, this is kind of how I approach death. Is I think to myself, I think my last thoughts would be, besides spending more time with my family, I wish I had more time to do X, Y, and Z, because I feel like there's all these things that I want to do and there's just not enough time, right? And so that's kind of how I think about it in some ways.
Yes. Okay. I'm not there.
But it's not a fear.
Because I have such a strong practice of living in the moment. And I do not have all these projects in my future. I think about something I'd like to do, but I really do focus on the next edition of Desert Health, which, we work on this month, or our next 3 sound baths, and, being present in how we're going to be helping those people so much. That is my greatest joy in life, is the actual moment of doing. And so I think through, 10 plus years of meditation and really focusing on living in the here and now and living in the moment, I don't have a huge list, and I'm not eager to get on to the next thing. I'm really my happiest enjoying what I'm doing at the moment.
I love hearing that, because that really is the core of meditation, isn't it? Is just focusing on your next breath.
Yes, I think it's also the core to being a successful business, because, for example, my equestrian trainer, moved to Colorado and took the beautiful horse Tristan with her. And so I had a little bit of space in my life. And so a dear friend of mine, Michelle, said, hey, I saw these guys in Florida and they had the coolest idea, putting these mattresses, not pool floats, but mattresses on the water and doing a floating sound bath. And I was like, how fun? She goes, do you want to do it? I said, I'm going to enjoy this little bit of break that I have. Next thing you know, I talked to my friend Maria, who owns Azure Palm up in Desert Hot Springs, beautiful mineral spring resort. And she's like, you have to do that. And you have to do it here. And I was like, okay. Because then you're like, the universe is telling you need to go in this direction. And so I called Michelle back. I'm like, okay, I booked our first event. Now we need to create the brand that we're going to be doing. And we said, if we're going to do this, we want it to be very upscale. And we're doing it because people need it so badly right now. It's such a transformative, rejuvenative meditation, a floating sound bath. And Dr. Elijah, in 6 months, we had 300 million views on Instagram.
That's just
Now, after
mind-blowing to
18
me.
months, we have almost 300,000 followers. We have almost 400 million views, which I can't even. And we watch what, the people comment, and they're just like, I need this right now. Influencers are like throwing money at the screen, like, I need. And it is, we have people who have flown to the Coachella Valley from the Netherlands specifically for our event. And, it's, people are that stressed and they see this as a reprieve. So they come to make a vacation of it in but it's around this experience, and it's pretty amazing.
So, as I mentioned previously, Lauren and her partner, Michelle, are co-founders of Good Vibes Sound Bath, and which is, by all measures, has been a phenomenal success. Now, tell me specifically what happens when you're doing this sound bath. I've seen the videos and the pictures, and what does one experience?
Yeah, it's number one, an unselfish act of self-care. So the first thing they do is they decide that they're going to do this for themselves. That's the biggest thing, because not enough people do that. So you commit that you're going to do this. You come to the event. As soon as you walk in, we've got this beautiful namaste music playing, and everybody, one at a time, we board people on to the mattress in the water. You take their hands and ask them to sit down. This is so scary for the people for some reason, and it's because you have to trust that we're going to take care of you. So that's a big element of the experience. They lie down on the raft. We wrap them in a very soft plush blanket. If it's cold out, we wipe their feet and put socks on them. We have a pillow, an eye mask, and we have we have over 200 candles everywhere. We start at golden hour at sunset, go into the evening. We have a full moon. Our next one is a full moon one next Wednesday. And you're all wrapped up, you're cocooned. Most people have said as we're tucking their feet under the blanket or putting on socks, they're like, no one's done this for me since I was 5.
Do you have to be on a swimsuit to do this?
No,
or you
you're
can just
fully dressed. You don't get
kidding.
wet. You don't get wet. No, you're fully dressed. You only get your feet wet as you walk onto the first step of the stairs, and then we dry your feet. And you're sent off. We push you off, and you float, and you are under the stars and the moon in the desert, and it's spectacular.
So do you listen to music as this is taking place?
Yes, when we have everybody boarded in the pool, then our sound practitioners start, and we've got 2 practitioners, so it's in stereo. And they've got sound bowls, they've got gongs, flutes, chimes, an array of music. So we've got the 2 sound practitioners on each end of the pool, and then we have people who walk around to play instruments over you as well. So it's a fully immersive sound experience. And sound therapy, that's getting its heyday right now, right? People are doing the scientific.
Certain frequencies of sound are supposed to be healing.
Exactly. So, as I said, the emotions that people cry, they connect with people that have passed. It's an amazing experience for people.
And so a couple of questions. How long does this process last?
Yes, the event's 2 hours, but that includes the boarding and offboarding. That you're on the water for about an hour.
I would love to do this, and I'm going to talk to my wife about signing up.
You need to come.
Now, an idea. Have you considered getting someone to be there with a monitor, measure everyone's vital signs before they start the process, and then measuring it right after?
Oh boy, it would be wonderful, but I know, because when people
Can you imagine the data you would get from that? I mean,
it would be fantastic. It would. It might
Make it
be a
kind of
little
sound like,
intrusive for the experience of the people. But when people get up, we're like, you're going to have sea legs. So move slowly, and we've got multiple people who help people off the raft. And then we just, walk slowly because people are out of it. I mean, they are so mesmerized by the experience.
That's crazy. I'm definitely going to try this because it just sounds so appealing and relaxing. And
Father's Day. If you don't have the kids local, we have one on Father's Day.
oh, that's right. That's
Love to
right.
have you
Okay.
guys join us. Perfect self-care gift for Father's Day.
All right. We'll have to chat about that.
Okay.
So, as if you're not doing enough, you are a volunteer in Coachella Valley Volunteers in Medicine. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I sat on the board and I'm now on the advisory committee. So how that came about, well, two ways. My mom, who's the greatest, who lives here, she has probably 1,500 hours of volunteering at Volunteers in Medicine. But when the Clinton Foundation came here to the Valley with the Clinton Health Matters initiative, their goal was to increase the overall health of the Valley, similar to what the Blue Zones is doing, but definitely a different program. And I have lunch with the Blue Zones team today, which is exciting to see.
And I want to talk to you more about that, by the way.
Okay. So the Clinton Health Matters initiative encouraged businesses to become pledge makers. So my pledge that I made was to get more doctors to volunteer, and nurse practitioners and nurses and PAs and everybody to volunteer at our Valley's only free medical clinic, Volunteers in Medicine. So we ran ads in Desert Health and did, connecting activities to try and encourage more volunteers for them. So that was wonderful. So that was a 5-year campaign. From there, they of course asked me to be on the board. So I did that. And then now I'm just on the advisory committee.
So, and you've received a few awards, a Trailblazer award, and the health influencer award. Tell me a little bit about that. What led up to that?
There's an organization called Women Leaders Forum, and they have Women Who Rule event each year. And I was graciously honored with the Trailblazer Award at that event at Women Who Rule for the many new paths that I've created. And I'd love to say that they were all, really hard work and what have you. But as I've described, most of them just kind of happened because of X, Y. It's so much just serendipitous opportunity that came about. But from the outside looking in, it's like, wow, you have done so many things that nobody's done before. I mean, Desert Health, many people, and Dr. Sugar's top of the list. He's like, there's no other publication that has naturopathic doctors and medical doctors living in unity in the same publication. And then, the floating sound bath, we kind of have started an industry. We actually consult with people to start it in other parts of the world and country. So again, a new thing. The cryoablation for breast cancer. Many people would say that as trailblazing as well, that you trusted yourself to go into a clinical trial and do something, that unstandard. So a lot of things, and I, started an equestrian business, and I've done so many different things, and I think that that's why that award was given to me. And then the other one, for obvious reasons, with Desert Health for 15 years. Yeah.
Any regrets in your life? And I know you're in the moment person, which is you take what's given, and.
Yeah, and I can only say the first thing that popped into my mind, not admitting that my father was dying and trying to be his cheerleader for recovery from glioblastoma brain tumor until it was too late. Like if I would have admitted he was dying, I could have been there in that way in the end. He was, to add a little humor and keep me from bawling, he was obsessed with blueberry muffins. So I'm cooking sugar-free,
That makes two of us,
gluten-free.
by the way. I love blueberry muffins as well.
That's great. These really healthy muffins. And meanwhile, he's calling my brother and he's like, at the airport, you stop at Starbucks, you get me a real blueberry muffin or don't come to the house. And I'm like, Dad, come on. We gotta
That's
do
probably
this,
what I
no
would say.
sugar. And I was there at the doctor's appointment when they're like 95% chance he's not going to make it, 5% he is. And I was like, Dad, if you want to fight this, I am there for you. If you want to go jump out of a plane and do everything you've never done, although I think he's done that, but all the things, make a bucket list, I'm there for you there. And he's like, I want to fight. And so I never gave that up. And I wish that I would have admitted that he was going to die, because I would have liked to have been there for him in that capacity. And I wasn't, because he went down quickly in 7 weeks.
Sure.
That's my only regret.
And in some respects, I hear you. And I think in some respects, you were a different person at that time. I mean, you know how they say, you don't ever walk into the same river twice. And also, the same person never walks into the same river twice. We're different from one moment to another. So if I were to advise being a little easier on yourself, you were a different person stepping into the river at that time.
No, I was pretty much me. I'll fight till the end.
Were
on
you?
Something that I. Well,
Okay,
no,
then I
we
was
can
wrong.
do it. We can do it. We can do it. But it did teach me, if that happens with another loved one, I am okay accepting that someone is going to be leaving me, and I can be there in that capacity. So I take that lesson with me.
What trait do you most admire in a person?
Integrity. Integrity. 100%.
How do you define integrity?
Oh, just someone who speaks from the heart, sincerely, admits when they can't do something, no false pretenses, and no bad intentions. You just admit who you are and don't try to be something else or make up things for what you lack in. You are just, here I am. And
what trait do you most detest in an individual?
Besides lack of integrity, I think I would say negativity. I'm, as you spoke earlier about the energy with other people, if somebody has that energy, I'm just, I just...
Walls go up.
Yeah. And I understand. I mean, people's experiences in life make them who they are. And I know that I empathize if someone has had a hard life and leads with negativity because of what they've been through. I empathize with them, but I'm such a cheerleader that there's always another way, that I struggle with it.
Lauren, what's the greatest wisdom you've learned, or piece of wisdom you've learned in your life?
One of my favorite quotes is, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react.
I agree with that. That's such a wonderful saying. And, and this is something that I've talked about in my other podcasts, I was reading somewhere that there is an evolutionary advantage to humans wanting to be what they think people think they should be, or this idea of being a crowd pleaser. And because in thousands of years ago, we couldn't, when we were hunter and gatherers and we were in these little clans, if you stood out from the clan, you'd be ostracized, which meant that you would starve and die without the protective shell of these other people around you, whether it be in a cave or on a field or whatever. And so there is this innate, need in us to please everyone and kind of be friends to everyone and be, just kind of blend in the crowd. And so it's very, I find it very interesting, that we are trying to, for me anyways, it's always a challenge of, this idea of being authentic, of just being myself and coming to acceptance with the fact that not everyone's going to like me. And not everyone's going to like my podcast. Not everyone's going to agree with my views, although I haven't really touched on very many hot topics, as you've noticed. But at some point I might. And I have to be okay with that because that is the real me. So.
Right. But you don't have to. I mean, like with Desert Health, we don't touch the hot topics. We make a conscious effort not to do that because, for example, the bombing that just happened in Palm Springs. The next day, I had an MD who worked in the area put together an emotional response and send it to me and said, please publish this. That's what we'll cover. We're not going to cover the horrendous events because it certainly was. But we're going to say, this is how we're healing. And here is from an MD that was directly affected. And that's powerful and that helps others. So that's where we want to focus on the resourceful element. What you're saying about the identity, as I said earlier, I think that I worked that out through my youth, right? Because I was the salamander. I was going to have a Southern accent when we moved from Michigan to Charleston, South Carolina. I was going to have a New York accent when I moved there. I was that. But
the chameleon that changes colors.
Oh yeah, I got good at that. But I was so well received wherever I went. I think by the time I got into the work world, I was like, I got this. I'm okay being me. Because that's certainly, think about it. Influencers, that's exactly why that whole industry just boomed. People like this aspect of me, or I can be this aspect, and I'm going out to the world with it. And
of course,
boy, the pressures they put on themselves to be that person all the time has got to have an impact. So yeah, I'm pretty raw and true to myself and appreciate when people can do that. Like you said, yeah, get to that point in life, that evolution, right? When you get to the evolution that I'm okay.
Of course. And going back to that bombing, my last piece was on the Palm Springs bombing, but the angle was a little bit, different. It was more on the Buddhist philosophy of finding meaning in suffering, and that's what life is, right? Life is just we suffer, but we have to find meaning in that. And I touched on the ideas of what happens to an individual to bring them to the point of committing something like this, and which speaks of the greater issue of mental health in our society and our world in general, of where are we and what are we putting our focus on, and are we raising healthy children? What are we doing to instill hope? And that's part of my goal with this podcast. And I know that's a huge goal with your publication and everything that you're doing. So congratulations on that. I think you've done a phenomenal job.
Thank you. And, again, our love for this community, one of the things I'm most thrilled about is our column by the high school health academy kids. So for those who don't know, we have an incredible program that grew out of the need for more primary care physicians here in the Valley, because in the East Valley, I think the statistic was 9,000 to 1 population to doctors. And so One Future Coachella Valley started health academies in each of the high schools. 200 kids are selected, and they come to school in their scrubs, different color for each, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and they learn the basics of medicine, and they intern, and they get immersive programs to encourage them, inspire, as you said, for them to go into healthcare. And we have a column called Mentoring the Future in Desert Health. And the kids standardly write about their experiences and what they've learned and how much it's meant to them and done for their confidence and their career path. And it's neat.
That is great. That's wonderful to hear. And I look forward to learning more about that. But our time is almost up, Lauren. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I mean, this has been such a fascinating conversation, and I've learned so much about you. I mean, obviously there was stuff that I knew about you, but you've just kind of illustrated and just touched on so many different things.
Well, thank you. This has been so fun. I can't believe how quickly it went, and I look forward to doing it again.
Yes, absolutely. And I know, I'll be submitting something to your publication as well, and I look forward to hearing your comments on that. But I value our friendship and our relationship.
Yes, we are honored, and I'm so excited. Thank you so much for your editorial contribution. Do look forward to reading that and to publishing you. For those out of the area, you can, for those in the area, you can pick up Desert Health at any 350 different locations. It's complimentary, or visit us online at deserthealthnews.com. And then for you to sign up for your Father's Day Good Vibes Sound Bath float, that's goodvibessoundbath.com. So,
and I will include links on my podcast to all of those. Lauren, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to talk to you, and I'm very happy to know you.
You as well. You go enjoy this beautiful day.
Thank you. You too, Lauren. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That brings us to the end of another episode of All Ask the Questions around here. I'm Dr. Elisha, and I hope today's conversation gave you something to reflect on and perhaps something to smile about. If you enjoy what you heard, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and join us next week for another journey through life's complexities and comforts.